Hey, Vinny. What's going on, bro?
Hey, Pastor, how are you?
Hey, doing well, doing well.
Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can.
Okay, yeah, I think trying to
Mhm.
get one of these aren't working.
Oh, all right, no problem. We'll just wait and see if anybody else is getting on. Um, Let me see if we can get the live to work. How was your day?
Not bad, not bad. My daughter had her first day of in class. She's been doing everything online,
Okay,
but that went well. But it's only half days, which is weird.
okay. They just started
Yeah,
doing.
the junior high and high school started late. They had a delay.
Okay,
I think it had to do for staffing reasons, which I think a lot of school districts are having problem with staffing.
oh yeah, okay.
Are you sharing it live from your page or?
From the church page. Let me see. Um, okay, yeah. All right. Yeah, we are live now. Let me see if I could share it. Welcome everybody who is joining us live on Facebook as well. And we're gonna get started in a few minutes. We're on our life group that we do every Thursday on this theme called "Things I Wish I Knew." And today we'll be discussing careers. How can we choose a career, prepare for a career, be successful in a career, especially as a believer and follower of Christ. So wherever God has called us to, we can definitely be successful in. And so I have a special guest with me. Um, Vinny is with me. He's a retired sergeant detective from the Mount Vernon Police Department, and so I'm just glad that he's with us, and he's just going to give us a lot of wisdom, a lot of information today. So we'll get started in a few minutes. Yeah. So just if you're on, just share it on your timeline, share it in a group, tell your friends. This definitely is going to be a great session. All right, I'm just sharing it right now on my timeline as well. Okay, here we go. Share it to group first. we could do this here and here, maybe to that. Okay. Then on my timeline here, share now. Okay. All right. Welcome everybody once again. It is 7:34. All right. I think we should get started now. All right. Great, great, great. Well, welcome again to the Life Group Bridge Church here. And every Thursday we do this theme called Things I Wish I Knew. And I think all of us can say that, you know, there are things that we wish. My son is well, here too, but things I wish I knew earlier in life. Maybe we come to know it later in life. And actually has explored many different topics, whether it was health, finances, marriage, right? And you know, it's wisdom really to learn from others who've gone before us and who has been there, done that. And so while you're tuning in, I'm also learning myself. Doesn't matter how old you are, who you are, what title you carry. You could always learn something. And so we're just glad that you could join us. And I have a special guest with me, Vinny, and he is a retired detective sergeant from the Mount Vernon Police Department. And he's going to share with us about, you know, a little bit about himself, his career choice, how he was successful in his career, and as well, he's a believer. He's a follower of Christ, and there goes my son turning off the light. But follower of Christ, and he's going to also just share some of those things, right? And as we dialogue, just talk about, you know, how do we as followers of Christ, um, you know, be a light, you know, wherever God has called us, you know. And so, so we'll start off with prayer, and then we'll get started. Father God, I thank you for just this time together. I thank you for just our conversation that you're guiding and just leading. I thank you for Vinny and his heart just to share his experiences and how you have led him, oh God, through many years as a police officer, oh God, to shine a light, not just in Mount Vernon, but in so many places, oh God, and even right here on Facebook and on Zoom here, that many people will be touched, and we would just see God revealed in everything that we say and do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right. All right. Take it away. Just talk to us about, yeah, who you are, which, yeah, your career choice and things like that.
Well, one, I want to thank you. It's an honor to be on here tonight. I'm really excited that you asked me to share my experiences with you. And you know, basically, you know, I was born and raised in Mount Vernon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 51 years old, retired recently as of April of this year, after doing 29 years in the Mount Vernon Police Department. Um, it's very rare for someone to go that many years within the Mount Vernon Police Department, because a lot of people come to Mount Vernon, they get hired, they move on to greener pastures. It's never been that for me. You know, when we talk about choosing a career, to me, I feel like the police department chose me. Um, you know, I mean, I've always wanted to give back to my community. I've always wanted to help people. I've always been that way. So I just gravitated towards policing. And you know, when we talk about what we wish we knew um, before we took the job, I mean, there's so much. I mean, you know, you are, you're 18. Some people, sometimes you're 18 years old, and you know, I didn't go to college. That's one of the things I definitely wish I would have done, because you don't realize at a young age how much your education is important to you, no matter what career you choose. You're going to need some sort of education, no matter what you seem to do. And me going into policing, I thought it was just about, getting in the police car, we're going to enforce the laws and so on and so on. Well, the laws aren't as easily interpreted as we like to think. And I think that's some of the issues that we have with policing today. They're not just plain and simple. You do this, you go to jail, you do that. And policing is way more than just enforcing laws. That was the other thing that we didn't realize. I found that most of my career, I was a social worker. I got on the job when I was 21 years old. You go to the academy for 6 months or whatever it is. Then when you come out, you're with the training officer for like maybe 8 weeks. Now you're on your own. Now here I am, this 21-year-old, most of the times either by myself or with another 21-year-old. And now I have to go to people's houses and most likely try to solve the problems in their life, in 10 to 20 minutes. Here I am, this kid that is now going to go try and help people the best way I can. But, when we talk about that, I'm also a man of faith and a believer. It took me a long time to realize that it wasn't me that chose this path or was doing things the way I did while I was a police officer. That was God working with me, and I was doing his work. I was different. I always felt different when I was on the job. I think I had more compassion than the average police officer. And, that part of faith was in me. And it took me a long time to realize that I wasn't always the believer that I am today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a better man today.
Right.
Understanding that now, and that's the thing, you wish you can get all this when you're younger, because things would be so much different. People like, how do you get through this and how do you get through that? I didn't know how I was getting through those things. I do now.
Right.
When I was shot at and I was almost killed when, I don't know, maybe it got to be 20 years ago. Why'd that bullet miss my head? Or why that guy who came at me with the knife that tried to stab me? How did I physically get the knife away from him instead of having to utilize to use my gun or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Back then I don't know, maybe I'm just lucky. It wasn't luck. I was chosen for this. And I think it definitely showed throughout my career. As I became older, I became wiser. And then when I really understood what I was doing there, it was more than just policing.
Were you
So
saved before you entered the police force? Were
no,
you saved? Okay.
no,
So you got saved after joining.
yes,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, we're talking about maybe 15 years now,
Okay.
and I mean, it just changed my life. It
Mm.
changed my life, my whole outlook on life. Even, it took me some time. It's not like it happened overnight, because I had to get that faith, because I didn't always have that faith. I didn't always say, like people say, oh, leave it to God or this and that and stuff like that. It's, I'm still not just a believer of just leave things to God.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know what God can do for me,
Right.
but I have to do it.
Mm.
I have to listen to him when he's talking to me.
That's true.
I can't disregard what he's saying to me. I just can't, okay, I don't know. Nope, it's not going to go that way. Or no, no, I have to listen. I have to listen and continue to do that. I'm not just going to sit back and wait for, to get hit by lightning or something like that. I know the path that's out there for me. So,
Well, how did,
when
sorry,
that's right. No, go ahead.
interject a little bit. How did you choose this career? Like, I mean, I know the career, force chose you, and you see that, later on. But in the beginning, what influenced you to actually join the PD?
Well, you know what? I always wanted to know why,
Okay.
and even to this day, I can't even have a conversation with somebody without it almost being like an interview or an interrogation, because I just can't accept
Right.
a simple answer, or it's just that I just was always been so inquisitive. I always want to get to the bottom of something.
Okay.
It just interests me so much. And growing up in Mount Vernon, like I said, I always wanted to do and give back to my community. So I went and I took the police test, and I was hired, and I was blessed. I was blessed to work for the Mount Vernon Police Department, and for as long as I did, and I continued to do stuff post career.
Okay.
Um, but there was what I didn't do is I didn't prepare to become a police officer.
Okay.
I didn't prepare to have a career, and I didn't prepare for what's after my career. The Mount Vernon, in the police department, and most police departments, it's 20 years and you can retire.
Mm-hmm.
But that, if I were to retire at 41 years old, it's not retire, it's what's next, what's the next level.
Right.
And I stayed as long as I did because I felt like there was so much more that I can do within. And as I was moving up the chain, had more responsibility, and I felt like I was helping out the police department by giving my wisdom and my experiences, because you really can't get that from a textbook.
Okay. Did you have any family members or friends who were police officers when you were thinking about joining?
Yeah, I had a, well, he wasn't blood uncle, but he was Uncle Joe Antonaccio, and he was
Okay.
on the force. And and then so I was around other police officers, and all that stuff was very, very exciting to me. I love that stuff, stuff that people would consider dangerous and
Yeah.
um scary. I enjoyed. I mean, I love we talk about our stories about on the job. We call them war stories because
Hmm.
cops are just full of them. We just have so many things. I mean, we've just seen so much. I
Yeah.
mean, we've seen more than some people would do in any career, and
That's
we've
true.
been a lot of interesting things, a lot of things that are very upsetting, a lot of things that continue to haunt a lot of us until this day, because we see everything. We
Mm.
police officers. That's why when I hear people talk negative about police officers and so on, it hurts me because, one, I'm not in denial that there are some bad police officers out there. Like in any career, you have
Right.
bad politicians, bad lawyers. Yeah, even in the church, everywhere there's some sort of negativity. There's something going on. But I don't think people realize what the police do, what they see, what they handle every day.
Mm.
People expect police officers to walk up and smile at 24/7, and it's as much as we'd like to see officers engage with people more, which is something I've always done and never had a problem with, but I've had bad days too.
Mm-hmm.
But when an officer has a bad day, it's not good at all. They're just looked at as evil and so on. But if I just did CPR on
Mm-hmm.
a baby that just died, am I
Right.
supposed to walk around with a smile when you walk up to me and say, "Hey, officer"? I'm supposed to, we don't work at Disney.
No.
We don't. And there are going to be some times where there's going to be a negative interaction between a police officer and the general public. It's just you just can't avoid it. And but most of the time, it's not the officer's fault. And I see a lot of good things happen with the Mount Vernon Police Department, and they're handling the officer wellness, which is important, because we don't think about it, especially men. We're very macho about it. We're like, yeah, okay, we've seen this, we've seen that, but
Right.
we see a lot, and it doesn't, you don't realize it. And I think a lot of officers suppress it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, I know you said your uncle was in the force, and did you ask him questions? Did you talk to anybody before joining the force about, hey, what do I do? What is it like?
yeah, I mean, you have to do your homework.
Okay.
One thing I try to tell my kids now, which really wasn't explained too much in school when I was in school, everybody wants to push you into some sort of career. Oh, go to
Hmm.
school, be a nurse, be this, be that. And to me, you really, yeah, I'm fortunate because I had a job that I loved. I love doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It was very stressful. It was very this, it was very, but I wouldn't trade it in. I wouldn't trade it in for anything. But
Mm-hmm.
so what I try to tell my children, like, like I would give advice to anybody, is find something you have a passion in,
Mm-hmm.
and and you can find a career in that
Yeah.
passion. Believe me, there's something out there, because I used to also be a field training officer, and that's when officers would come out of the academy. They would be assigned to me. I would have them for a certain amount of weeks and get them acclimated into how we do things within the Mount Vernon Police Department and our policies and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And I would tell them, this this is a job you have to want to do,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to put up with a lot. And
Yeah.
I don't think I did my homework with that, on the sacrifices I was going to have to make um, for being a police officer. Um, but getting back to your question, yeah, he pretty much told me about the physical agility part of it that I had to be prepared for,
Mm-hmm.
the psychological test I had to be prepared for, the written test, and
Right.
then there was an interview process that you have to
Mm.
go through with the command staff of the police department at the time in order to get hired.
Okay. Now you talked about passion, which I believe definitely have to have for any career that we take on. Was that passion initially there, and if so, did over the course of working as a police officer, did you see it kind of waning, kind of diminishing, and then how did you get it back?
Well, the passion was always there.
Okay.
Um, Diminishing, no. The one thing that, like, we go back to, a lot of politics within the police department, a lot of issues with who knows who gets promoted by who, and so on. What I did is I would never let that stop me from being who I am. So I wouldn't say that it diminished, but a little bit of it, did slow me down for a little while, because there was a point in my career where I didn't feel like I was going anywhere within my career, only because, the powers that be, for some reason, didn't want to advance me, and I was worthy of it. And, it could have been because I didn't know people, and a lot of other people who were related to so and so were getting moved up and so on. So I was a little stagnant in the patrol division for a while, and I worked an easier part of Mount Vernon, but I continued to still work as hard as I could, even though, my light was dimmed a little bit, because I really felt like I was stagnant in my career, because I knew I could do so much more. I really did. But um, you know, uh, did it dim out? And what I have to do to get it back is, I got reassigned into the detective division, where I always wanted to be. I always wanted to be a detective, and that kind of brought my passion back, even though it really didn't go far. But I wasn't being utilized the way I should, and now I was. So I was able to contribute more.
Okay. I mean, so you said you got saved and became a follower of Christ while you were on the force, right? So maybe like about 5, 6 years in or so, or was it more
Yeah, it
or
was
less?
a little more. It was a little
More.
more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once that happened, so the before and after, what did that look like after you became a follower of Christ? How did you see your career now, than you did before you were a follower of Christ?
Well, I understood now why and how I was the way I was. And it just, things were just easier for me. Um, because like, there was a lot of situations where we had to speak to um uh family members who had a death in the family. We were on a lot of calls, whether it was homicides or natural death. We went on every natural death call that we had to go there. We had to sit with the family until the funeral home would come, and so on. And it was just so easy for me um, to be able to speak to the family about what had happened, and a lot of times praying with them, and my faith just helped me help me deal with those issues and help me just be a better person, and to have a better understanding of what's going on. A lot of people, like I said, they just want to make an arrest, put somebody in jail, and so on. No, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to know what caused that person to do that and how can we help them. So that's what made me um, that's what made me different. I wasn't all just about arresting people and so on. I wanted to help people any way that I could. So it wasn't people weren't just a stat to me. They weren't just a number for me. So that was very important.
Okay, wow, that's great. So, so I guess becoming a believer in Christ, do you see your career now as a calling, like just making a difference, and seeing every day as an opportunity, to shine the light, where you were working?
Yeah, that was one of the reasons that it was so hard to actually retire, because I felt like it was my calling. So now, like, what do I do now? If I'm not helping people, if I'm not, because at that point, the position that I was in, the helping of people was now helping the people that worked for me, because now I was a supervisor. And at the time when I retired for 3 years, I was second in charge of the detective division in Mount Vernon. So I had a lot of people underneath me, other supervisors underneath me, and so my job was to help them do their job better, because I did it. I did the job. I had the experiences, and when it comes to law enforcement and policing, you have to have that experience. You really do. Not just with solving cases, but dealing with people, and so on. So I was giving that as well.
That's great. That's really good. You know, I mean, there are settings where we find ourselves in where it's difficult to shine the light. Just the environment is negative. It's just sinful. People are just cursing, doing whatever immoral things. How do you, as a believer in Christ, deal with all of that negativity, the discouragement? How do you, shine the light in an environment like that that could, really, come against your spirit and make you feel like, man, how do I, what do I say? How do I act? If I act differently, they're gonna look at me like, oh, there goes the church boy. So yeah.
Well, well, that was the thing that came easy, only because people saw me different. People saw something in me where I didn't have to go around and walk around with a Bible in my hand and stuff like that. People just, they felt it in me. They felt it in me. They knew, and they would ask me certain questions. And we have a lot of believers on the job, and I don't think anybody was ever pointed out as being different because they were a believer. A lot of people didn't believe in the same things that we believed in, but they never disrespected us, the fact that we had a relationship with God. And it was a teaching opportunity, because guys, literally, I'm talking about guys that would always go out and do this and do that, and whatever. And then they would, but those are the ones that were coming up to me and talking to me about things. And even family as well. They just felt that goodness in you. And people would just come to you, you know for advice. How do you deal with problems in your life? Because I've been through a lot, whether it was personal, whether it was on the job, or whatever. And the one thing I had was faith. I just had faith. And things aren't going to happen overnight, but I knew that something positive was gonna come about it, as long as I wasn't the one initiating the negative. Because there are a lot of negative people within the police department, whether it's people who are jealous, whether it's people that are just, they were just whatever, they just weren't nice people. I had to deal with not so nice bosses for a long time. And I don't hold things back. I teach my children, I teach people to speak up for yourself. And I was that person who definitely spoke up for himself. And I remember there was a situation where a supervisor wanted to do something for me, and he was saying that I was angry because of something I didn't get, a promotion or something like that.
Mhm.
And I straight up told him in the meeting, I said, I'm not angry about anything. I said, when God is ready to be for me to have this position,
Right.
it's going to happen. So there's nothing you can say to me
Mm.
that, and that's what's remarkable about being a believer and having that faith, is that you can't phase me. You can do whatever you want to me, but it's like I said, if I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I have faith that it's just going to be a positive outcome. And a lot of people felt that from me, and that's what I try to preach to people without being a preacher.
Right.
But like I said, people just felt that from me, and they sought that from me. you know
Mm. Wow, that's good. I'm sure there are people that's watching us and joining us online are in, maybe just working in, toxic environments. And they just dread going to work, not because they don't like what they do, but it's just the people, the environment, you know, uh, just the stress from staff, from their boss, administration. Um, how did you handle that as a believer? And how did you make the best of that? How did you see God in all of that?
well, I handled it a lot better as a believer than not. And I'm sure people who know me over the years, they know I can handle things a certain way.
Mhm.
um but it just goes back to what I was talking about, the positiveness. Is just being positive. you know there was a lot of things that go on, especially within the police department, whether it's political bickering with city hall and
Mhm.
having to deal with not getting paid, like some of the officers are now, with the controller, and with the environment we're in now. Police officers have had a target on their back for a long time because of the actions of a few.
Mhm.
um but I don't I always preach that I don't work for the mayor, I don't work for the city council, I don't work for the controller. I work for the people of Mount Vernon.
Mhm.
And most of the people of Mount Vernon want us out there, need us out there, and we have to do it for them. We can't take out the fact that we're not getting a raise increase, or we drive around in horrible cars, or I have a boss that's an idiot. I just have to go do my job. This is what we're here for. And that goes back to talking to the rookie cop and saying, if you took this job just to take a job, go work for the post office. And I'm not saying anything disrespectful about anybody that works for the post office, but you know this job is different.
Mhm.
different Not many people can do this job. They just can't. And you have to want to do this job. You have to have that passion to do this job. The people of Mount Vernon expect better of you. And I'm talking about from where I work.
Right.
So they expect that. They're not in the middle of all this other nonsense. And when you come to work, you have to put all that aside. We have problems in our personal lives just like everybody else. We're normal. When we cut, we bleed just like everybody else. We hurt, but we got to come to work, and now we have to do what we can to protect the people of Mount Vernon.
That's good. I know in the book of Colossians, chapter 3, verse 23, it talks about how everything that we do, we should do it for the Lord, right? And so as a believer, we see everything that we do as a stewardship, as a steward, and just knowing that God sees and cares about everything that we do. And at the end of the day, we're here to please Him in all of our actions. And so just seeing our career and, as a vocation, as a calling, that God has placed us there for a reason.
Hmm.
And, we could have chosen any other career, any other, direction. But when you know that you're there on purpose, right? I believe that you start to, see that and operate differently. Your work ethic changes. You do more, you go above and beyond, right? So maybe you could talk about that. When you, how did you know that this was your career? Like, you're gonna go and retire doing this, and then how did you succeed? How did you kind of, you know go through the ranks and, excel in this career?
Well, man, I just knew, I knew because everything I wanted to do um, was within the police department. One, I wanted to serve my community. I wasn't, like I said, a lot of people leave Mount Vernon, they go on to be somewhere else, but I just don't feel like that was me. So, I stayed within the police department. I saw the issues that we had, and I just wanted to make them better. Um, and when it came to advancing, to be honest with you, I was very content with being a detective within the Mount Vernon Police Department. I felt like I was best suited for that job. I think I did it very well. Um, but there came a point in time where I just felt like, you know, our police officers just weren't getting the training and that they needed. Like our recruits just weren't getting it. Like they were being taught from people who didn't have the experience that I had. So, I was like, you know what? If I become a supervisor, then I will have, at least, between 10 to 12 people underneath me within a patrol squad that
Right.
I can kind of teach, and I could kind of help them progress and be better police officers. And then that would make them uh, better uh, field training officers, and just so on. I just thought I was, I could do that. So I decided to start studying for the sergeant's exam because I really never had any, I had no passion to be a supervisor because
Mhm.
I enjoyed doing what I was doing as a detective. So that's when I decided to advance further, and that's gets back to the education part, like what when you're choosing a career or what you could have done before your career, and getting a college education um, is key is
Mhm.
key. And it's not even just because of what you're going or what degree you're going for and so on. It's just that the information and then how to process things and how to handle situations and stuff, you're just going to learn by taking by going on to college and advancing your education. And I never realized that as a young person because
Mhm.
school just wasn't for me. I was one of those kids that was like, okay, what's this going to do for me?
Right, right.
Couldn't see the future on how, that if I would have went, like my son right now, he wants to be a police officer, so now
Mhm.
he's in college taking criminal justice. So
Wow.
he's learning things and doing things that it took me probably 10 years to get that information. So
How old
he's
is your son?
definitely, he's 18. Well, no,
18.
he'll be 18 in December.
Okay.
He's 17, so he's in his first year.
Okay.
So and it's good because I can kind of help him out and guide him on where he needs to be and what he can do. And biggest thing is get your education first, because once you start working as a police officer, and there are a lot of officers that did it, that went to
Mhm.
school afterwards and during, it's hard. It's not easy. So why make things harder on yourself?
Mhm.
You live at home with mommy and daddy or so on, just go get your college degree, and then move on. But as far as advancing, I always felt like I was a leader, and I could just be better, can benefit the department if I was a supervisor. So I studied for the sergeant's exam, scored high enough where I was promoted to sergeant, and then I was appointed to a patrol squad. But then I had another challenge within 6 months of being a supervisor. I was asked to actually run the narcotics division,
Wow.
which Pastor, I knew I wasn't prepared to do,
Mm.
but I wasn't going to say no. So I challenged myself. And
Divine appointment.
yeah, you got to listen, right?
Yes.
You got to listen. So, and that's another thing for young people to understand. Don't be afraid. Don't
Mhm.
be afraid to do things that you may be a little bit nervous about, or you may not think, because you know what, we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
None of us are perfect, you know. And the one thing I always did was I trusted my judgment.
Mm.
And as long as I did it, I knew I could never be, if I yeah, okay, if I made a mistake or whatever, and if there's discipline that comes along with it, great. But it wasn't done in malice. It wasn't done to hurt anybody. It was just an honest mistake of maybe some sort of policy or something
Right.
like that. So, and then there was actually, I had a supervisor who didn't want me in that position.
Mm.
So he then tried to make my life miserable in that position. So here I am learning how to be, you know, this supervisor and run an actual unit,
Right.
which is very, very hard unit to run. Narcotics division was very hard. Um, and I was learning on the fly. And there were so many things I didn't even know how to do before I got up there, like supervisors reports and this. Now I'm doing scheduling, I'm doing budget, I'm doing, so it was
Wow,
a
it's a
lot.
lot.
it,
You look back and say, "Oh, man, it was only by the grace of God."
and
That's
there it is.
it,
and,
and yeah, go ahead.
and just agreeing with you. And there it is. And that's what got me through it. That's what
Mm.
got me through it, knowing that as long as I was doing the right thing, I would learn on the fly. And I had to have, you have to have, oh, what's the word? You have to believe in yourself,
Yeah.
you know, you, you
Walking
know,
by faith, right? Not by
yeah,
sight.
yeah, yeah. We just, just believe in what you're doing. And
Yeah.
to me, it just all works out.
Wow, this is really rich. I'm learning a lot myself here, and I'm sure everybody who's watching us and joining in, and maybe you caught us at the tail end or in the middle here. You can always go back to the post and check the great things that Vinny has been sharing with us. But I wanted to ask you about, I guess, some of the things that I just took away is one is that don't be afraid to take a risk, right? And that faith walk. So as a believer in Christ, we are called to walk by faith, not by sight. And that faith walk is not you know uh, knowing everything, right? There are uncertainties, there are risks involved, there are times when we don't believe in ourselves. We're not,
Yeah,
we
believe me.
we think we can't do it, right? But God believes that we can do it, and with Him we can do all things, right? And so that faith walk. So whatever career that we find ourselves in, and seeing it as a calling from God as well, knowing that it was divine appointment, right? And that you are there on purpose. And what I really admire about what you're saying, Vinny, is that you saw the opportunity to be a greater influence and help more people by becoming a sergeant, by going to new heights, new levels, right? You didn't settle for where you were, and so you had to, even though you had to do the education and do other things to get to that next level, you knew that you could do more at that level than where you were. And
Yeah,
so I think that that's awesome. Wherever you guys are in your career, look to advance, be better, see how you can influence people on a greater level, right? And so one thing that I want to talk about is just humility, right? I think you come off very humble, and I love that character about you. But it's,
thank you.
just thinking about a police officer, right? Pride can be very, very easy. Like, we could default to pride and arrogance very easily,
Huh.
especially as an officer, because of the badge, because of the authority that you carry, uh, and because you carry a firearm, right? And so and you're backed up by the whole this department and just
Hmm.
police officer itself. It's like you're part of this elite kind of club. So talk about humility and how did you have to maybe fight off arrogance and pride and the right to do something, and how did that even help you in the force? And yeah.
I mean, it's an awesome responsibility to do what we do, um, and a lot of people don't handle it well. And I'm not saying I was the best at it when I was younger, within the career, because they always told us you got to have thick skin, um, because you're going to go out there and you're going to hear a lot and you're going to have to take a lot,
Yeah.
and you just can't, you're just going to have to eat it up, you
Mm,
know. So you do get humbled very quick,
mm,
um, and I think where a lot of officers make the mistake is they don't. Some of them aren't humbling themselves. They one they may not have been much before they became a police officer, and
mm,
now they're wearing this shield. And there's one thing to wear the shield and be proud of it,
yeah.
but then there's a bigger thing is you're taking that pride and you're turning it into arrogance,
Mm,
where you're walking around and now when you do look at people, either you're overlooking them or you've given them this look, or the way you communicate with people. And I found from learning from other people and seeing how they act and the
mm,
response they got from the community from them, I mean, that taught me right away. There are times you have to be a certain way. You're not always going to come across as this guy that gets along with everybody, or he's the man of faith. There are going to be times, unfortunately, there are bad guys out there and they want to take advantage of you any way they. So you do have to give this persona of you're not going to mess with me.
mm,
Just like people who, you live in that community, in order to stay in that community and protect yourself, you have to be tougher, or people are going to start picking on you. It's the same thing with police officers.
mm,
We deal with, when you're dealing, and I'm not talking about the majority of people. I'm just talking about that small group that is
right.
constantly getting in trouble, constantly doing this. They will play you, and they're going to test you to see if they can get over on you. And you have to let them know right away that you're not going to be that type of person.
Mm,
And to be honest with you, they have so much respect for you because you didn't do it in a way where you're like, get the heck out of here,
mhm, mhm,
instead of cursing.
mm,
But they see that, but they also know you're out here, you're doing your job, and they can see the fairness in you,
mm,
and you end up having a relationship with them. They're selling drugs, you're doing this, you're doing that. But to me, it's been, if I see him do it, I'm going to enforce the law. If I don't see him do it, that doesn't mean I couldn't have a conversation with that person,
mhm,
because as a patrol officer, you're engaging people 24/7. It's different
mm,
when you're a detective. Patrolmen, they're out there all the time. They're the ones, they're seeing everything, they're talking everything, and that's where you should be building your relationships. And that's one thing I was very good at. When I saw a problem area as a patrolman, I didn't get out, start hitting people upside the head with my nightstick. You're not going to do this, you're not going to do that. No, I just went there.
mhm,
I would just go there, start talking with people, start talking with business owners and stuff like that. And that's where I was able to get the respect from the community. And when they saw that I was working, they knew I
mhm,
was going to be out here. So they're going to take their business somewhere else. So that I do my job without having to put cuffs on anybody and so on. Yeah. Does it stop it? I'm not saying it stops it, but there's more. Like I've always said, there's more to policing than just locking somebody up. But yeah, you can get humbled quick. You can get humbled
mhm,
physically.
yeah, yeah,
Some guys, their mouth, what's that say? Their mouth can't cash the check. That whatever, it's something like that where they mouth, and then next they got to get physical with somebody. They're going to get their
mm,
butt kicked,
right.
and their mouth got them into that type of trouble. And it just causes more issues. I've been involved in a situation where just because of the way the guy spoke to the people, um, it caused them to attack him, attack me. I got hurt, this and that, all over somebody having to move off of a corner, and the way he talked to them, you know,
Mm,
it caused so much. So yeah, you'll get humbled. And I learned by watching other people make the mistakes.
mm,
you
good.
know, and I've told myself I wasn't going to make that mistake, and
Right.
you learn, and you learn.
No, that's good. I hope you guys are taking notes here. You're getting a lot of nuggets here. Um, Jesus talks about, if you want to be great, be a servant. And, Jesus never um, asked us not to be great, right? But he said, if you're going to be great, do it the right way. Do it the way that's lasting. Be a servant, right? Um, when you think about just servanthood, and serving people and just humility, how did that help you on the job? How did you serve people, and how did your higher ups, see you and receive you, because of your humility?
Well, it depended on who the higher ups were. Like I said, it always goes back to politics. And to me, unfortunately, there was only a couple of people that actually appreciated that type of policing.
Mm,
And even still to this day, you have some police officers who look down on others because they're in a position where they're doing more of helping than being that rah rah cop. Believe me, I've been in my foot pursuits. I've had my gun arrests. I've had my yeah, car chases. So I've done all that. I believe me, so that's why I'm very critical of police officers when I see how they do their job, because I've done it. I've done the job. You can't tell me war stories that are better than my war stories. Um, but there's more to policing. There's more to policing. And I got put into a community, you say that, but I was picked to go into a community policing unit, I think in 93 or 94, which I only had a couple of years on the job. Um, Unfortunately, I was partnered up with somebody who didn't have the same philosophy that we were supposed to be out there doing. Our job was out there to walk around on a foot post, and it wasn't just to go out there and make drug arrests and do stuff like that. We were interacting with the kids, we were playing ball with them in the street, we were talking to people, and so on. Yeah, we do our jobs, but we can't help people if we don't know what their issues and what their problems are.
mm,
And not a lot of people are willing to come up and talk to a police officer unless they've had that relationship. So you have to create that relationship.
right.
you know um I was able to do more, um as I had more say within the police department, as I had more time on the job, when I came up and started doing the coffee with a cop, which I thought was great, and I hope they continue doing it, after COVID happens, or at least more programs like that. Police officers need to get involved in the community, flat out. And you know as and people need to get recognized for their work. We have some awesome officers who do more, and they're just not that patrol officer. They're not out there making the arrest. They're out there making those relationships, especially with our kids in the community, because I believe they're the ones that we have to engage right away, is our children.
um you know without when we talk about, our careers, and the thing, we talk about things we wish we knew. uh what comes to your mind when, if you could go back, right, and do it all over again? What may come to your mind, and you wish, man, I wish I did this. And you would maybe talk to those who may be considering that, or even in their career right now.
I guess more or less just having a vision, from day one, of where, they say where you want to be in 5 years, where you want to be in 10 years. you know that's huge. And preparing for that next level, and to move up. That's one of the things I try to tell a lot of young officers. I was like, yo, you take the sergeant's exam. I don't
Mm,
know if I'm ready. I said, yeah, but you know what? You got to get experience within the test no matter what. So just take the test. If you're not ready, you're not ready. You'll get that experience. And
mm,
I didn't take the sergeant's exam until I had 19 years on the job or so on, something like that. So, just having that type of vision and looking far ahead, because it goes by fast. I mean, here I am, I'm sitting here with you, I'm retired. I can still remember the first day I sat in the roll call room,
wow.
and that's, over 29 years ago. And because it goes by really fast, and you're going to be like, what in the world? I just wasn't prepared for it.
So you wish you took
Um,
that test earlier, like this? You wish you got the sergeant, became a sergeant earlier?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I mean, you know what? I probably could have been lieutenant right before I retired. I was
Mm,
within the next 6 months, I probably could have gotten it because I was on that list.
mm,
But I was ready to move on and do other things. And as
right.
you know, I'm involved in a lot of other things, outside of the police department at this time. But yeah, I believe you should work on advancing, within your career, no matter what it is.
Okay. I know, especially as an officer, as a stressful job like that, all of us find ourselves at some point making our career, you know, take over our life. And I know you have a great family, and just being a dad and husband, and um, how did you balance it all? I mean, how did how did you not allow the career to take over? And because it's so
Yeah,
easy.
no, it was. I mean, I was fortunate enough when my kids were young. Um, I decided to take a position as an overnight detective where I worked midnights. So what that meant for me was no sleep for dad, because I worked from 11 at night to 9 in the morning, and then when I would come home, I would either be up with the kids, or I would take a nap, and then so I made myself available for that, and I continued to coach sports and do all that stuff. I made it work. It was important to me. It could be very easy, but I also wasn't that guy that went out after work with the guys. And you know what? I kind of wish I would have balanced it a little more, because that was important too,
Mhm.
to create those relationships with my coworkers.
Coworkers, right?
Yeah. And, I, not that I passed up on it, but there could have been times where I could have made it work and balanced it out. But, you know, if, during most of my career, I had 5 children. And then towards the end, I had my six. So it wasn't easy. I had a lot of kids to balance and be a part of, but they'll tell you, I made it work. I was at all their games, rarely missed certain things. I mean, early in my career when I was in patrol, it was harder, because we work a rotating schedule and so on. But I didn't have kids early on in my career. So, I just made it work. And you just, unfortunately, what you can't prevent is taking home what the job is doing into you internally. And sometimes you're not the best of people after you leave home because of everything that you're dealing with from the job. And
Yeah.
that leads into so much. I mean, a lot of guys, when to alcohol or drugs or all that stuff are problems within the police department. And a lot of guys, the suicide rate, thank God this year is lower than it has been in the past, but the suicide rate, for police officers is, it's way too high.
Mm. How did your faith help you in a stressful job like this?
It got me through it. It got me through it because, we like, I go back to say, the things that we see on a regular basis. So, I was lucky enough where I could just go and I'll pray on it, just go and pray on it. And, we can't suppress, but we do have to move on and move past, because people are expecting us, they're leaning on us, and we really don't have anybody to lean on. And that's why I think some guys who I didn't want to suppress it. I wanted to to talk about it with other guys and so on. And I think that's very important now. I think we need I think the police department needs some peer mentoring, as well as I know they established some sort of wellness when it comes to the mental health of the officers. So, I believe Deputy Commissioner Lackard is has put something like that together for the officers, which is has been lacking for a long time. And I think we should have been doing that since day one. There should always be some sort of debriefing or something like that when we're in a situation where we had a homicide. And most of the time it's whenever we have something that involves a baby or a child or something. But those are really hard to deal with. But you got to talk about it. Everybody, you just can't be like, no, it's okay.
Mhm.
It is what it is. No, you got to deal with it. You got to talk about it. You got to let it out, even if you got to cry or whatever it is, because that stuff internally, you won't know it. It's eating you up. It's eating you up.
Yeah. Some of us are in careers where we have difficult coworkers, personalities. They don't like us, we don't like them. How did you deal with just coworkers who didn't like you and you didn't like them, but you still had to work together? How did you do that?
It's funny. A lot of people can't understand why I would even talk to certain people that I work with. And I like, I can't walk around with that negative energy. I'm just not going to allow and give anybody that power to make me change how I'm going to work or how my day is going to be because they don't like me, you know? And I know I'm not doing anything for them not to like me. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people, don't agree with my personality. I'm very aggressive. I speak my mind. Um, but you know what? We're all different people. That doesn't mean we have to dislike each other.
Mm,
Um, and I put things in the vault. People act a certain way towards me or whatever. Some people think that, oh Lord, oh, why are you letting that person talk like that? Or why you went, put it in the vault. I know where I stand with you and I know what my relationship is going to be with you. But
mm,
that doesn't mean I'm going to walk around and when I come to work, avoid you or start looking at you with nasty faces. Nobody should have that type of power over you. Nobody.
mm. That's really good. Yeah.
But in our job, there's a lot of different personalities, a lot of different personalities. And to me, I think if we just talk to each other, we
Hmm.
can solve those things.
Yeah.
A lot of things are misconceptions.
Mm,
You know, oh, the face that you have on every day, just you're unapproachable, or the remarks, the things you do with your eyes when I'm talking with you. You don't like me. You don't. They're assuming things, and
mm,
the other thing is that you got to form your own opinion about somebody for yourself. Within the police department, there's too many people going around. Oh, look at that one, this one, that. No, don't go based on somebody else's experience with them. Base
mhm,
things on your interaction with them, because I think that's one of the things that I had against me, from whatever bosses, whatever, they just had a misconception about me. They thought just because I spoke up for myself and so on that I wasn't worth investing in, but I proved them wrong. So
mhm. All of us come from different backgrounds, ethnicities, and sometimes, being in a certain career, based on your color of your skin or just how, if you're an immigrant or not, if you have an accent or not, like people treat you differently. You may be passed up for a promotion just because of your color, things like that. How did you deal with just maybe racism, prejudice? I know you as a white male, in a predominantly black community, serving in a predominantly black community. Like, how did you deal with racism? How did you deal with just people being different from you? And yeah, how did you bridge that gap?
well, I mean, I was fortunate enough where Well, one majority of my friends, now or mostly all, were black. So to me, I really don't think I had much of a problem. Um, I think it was a lot easier for me. But growing up Italian, and growing up in Mount Vernon, I grew up in a time in Mount Vernon where everybody was jetting out of Mount Vernon.
Mm,
You know, whether it was because of racial issues or whatever. And my father stayed, and man, I mean, he's up in heaven now, but thank God for him doing that, because it made me a well-rounded person. And I don't think anybody should just be, I don't try to be anything. I didn't try to be black. I didn't try to be Hispanic. I didn't try to be. I was just me.
mhm,
I didn't talk a certain way. I didn't dress a certain way. I was just being me, and I think I think people accepted me for who I am.
mm,
And of course, white and being in a and being in a police uniform, and in a minority community, I had everything against me. So
mm,
I had to work harder to build the trust of people, because right away, you know, if you're white and you're a police officer, it's a negative. It
mm,
really is. And then if you're black and you're a police officer, they're looking at you like you're an Uncle Tom.
mm,
So, we both had to deal with it together, in our own ways, if you can understand what I'm saying there.
yeah,
I don't think it was easy for a white guy or a black guy, because they had to, we both had to take certain negatives just based on our color,
mm,
no matter what. And within the police department, yeah, there's been incidents or things that you had to hear when there was I had a large majority of white police officers when I got on the job. At the time, my girlfriend, who ended up being my wife and the mother of my children, was black. And guys would try to say certain things and this and that, and I just spoke up. I was like, no, man, I'm not that guy. You're not going to talk like that around me.
mm,
And once again, that goes in the vault, because now I know what this guy stands for. I know what his morals are, his values,
right.
and so on. But I didn't run into anything. I didn't have any incidents based on race or anything like that. And once people learned who I was, and how fair I was,
Mhm.
I earned their respect.
No, that's really good. Just being who you are, right? I mean, I found myself the same way, as an Indian coming into a black community and being a pastor there.
Right.
Um, you know, everyone had a understanding of Indian person, and now, I
Yep.
didn't have to be them, right? And I didn't have to be anybody but myself. And I think when you're yourself and they get to know you, uh, and if you're a person that's accepting and a person of love, let
Yeah.
me tell you, it really bridges any gaps. It bridges any it breaks every barrier, and it really brings unity. Um, I believe that totally, right? And I think that's
Yeah.
one of the things that, in any career, if you feel, you know, um, discriminated against based on your color, based on your ethnicity, I think, just celebrate who you are. Like God made you who you are. You're not less than anybody, and you're not greater than anybody. And if you're just you, and just to love people as they are as well, I believe that people will give the respect and really appreciate, uh, you being you. So, and not trying to be somebody you're
Yeah,
not.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's all I ever tried to be. I don't have to be anybody else. Like, for what? What do I need to fake for? I don't have to dress a certain way to get this or get that. People see genuine, like I was talking about before when we were talking about dealing with, being a believer, and then some of the things that you're dealing with on the job, how people would just gravitate um,
Mm,
to me. I didn't have to go out there and preach anything, on a soapbox or anything like that. People just gravitated to me. And it was just amazing, the people that get placed into your life when you are a believer. It's like, okay. And it's that's what's like really amazing,
Yeah.
is that when somebody comes, even today, like I do some Ubering up where I live, and I'll get people in the car, and then start talking to them, and I was like, man, you're doing it again. You still putting people in my life that if I wasn't there, who knows what decisions they'd be making or doing whatever. And now I'm sitting and I'm having a conversation and I'm helping people out.
Yeah.
So it's all around you. You can't escape it.
That's great. I mean,
It's
I
amazing.
think that's something that, as a pastor, trying to teach or even be an example or show people how to be a witness at your job. Like,
Yeah.
how do you share the gospel with those around you in your job and not being afraid of people judging you or you getting fired because you're expressing your faith or even sharing your faith with others around you, um, and also not feeling intimidated or feeling fearful that you have to have all the answers, right? Like you have to know all the scriptures, you have to know every answer to every question that people are going to ask you about God.
Yeah.
um, how did you deal with that? Even I know you became a believer while on the force, and so maybe as a new Christian, did you have fear? How did you feel like you wanted to share your faith, but how did you do that? And yeah, how were you a light, to those around you?
Yeah. I mean, you know, we all think about how people like I talk about like Tim Tebow, for example. Do you know who Tim Tebow is? Quarterback.
Yes.
And it just annoys me that when people talk about him, they're negative when they talk about his faith.
Hmm.
And going back to you were saying, it's like, so that could kind of make you hesitate to talk or discuss certain things. And so it's not like I would bring it up all the time.
Right.
um and not for that reason. It's just because one, it's the workplace, and not everything, it's all about the situation,
Yeah.
and whether it needs to be brought up or discussed about, or somebody of faith. I'll go to them and I will talk to them about certain things, like, listen, blah blah blah, and we're able to relate that way.
Mm.
But I think most of it has been people approaching me wanting to discuss and talk about things, and other believers that are on the job. We formed a men's group. We haven't met in a while, with some police officers from Mount Vernon, and there was a guy who had left Mount Vernon, um, and they formed a men's group that we were doing, and it was something that I really wanted to bring to the police department as well, to form a group, whether it was a Bible study, because I don't want people to be afraid. I
Wait,
don't
so
want
you
people.
started that?
No, no, no. One of the guys from work did, but I was saying there was some. He wasn't on the job anymore, so it was outside. Yeah, he actually lives up here by me. But that was something I wanted to bring to the police department.
Mm.
But it's one of those things where, how do you bring that? It was just that area of, how do you bring that together in the workplace? You know, not that it's frowned on, but it's just so much. There's just so much that goes with religion, and like how you deal with religion in school, religion in the workplace. But I think it's important because you know you shouldn't be afraid. You just shouldn't be afraid to express yourself, and there's other like-minded people also there. It shouldn't be afraid.
Mm. Yeah, I think we tend to have an understanding of what it is to be a witness at work, where we have to carry this Bible or wear this big cross or whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
um, but from what you have been sharing, just the relationship, right? Just caring about people, um, being there for people when they most need it, right? Um, Talking to people, um, being humble, showing them your character, right? And I believe that's the greatest way that we shine the light is through our character, is what
Yeah.
we say, what we do, how do we handle stress, right? How do we handle negativity? And as you were saying, people are looking at you, you're different. You're here, you're not acting like everybody else, you're not talking like everybody else, you're not you know um, doing the things that maybe people think police officers are supposed to do or do, and maybe you're not going that route, and so you're going against the grain, um, and so you stood out, right? And yeah, I just believe that's the best way really to shine the light
Hmm.
anywhere we are in our careers. You don't have to know it all. You don't have to be a preacher,
Hmm.
pastor, anything like that. I believe, yeah, we where we serve, where we work, we're the best witnesses. And even as a pastor, I believe there are places that people can go that I can't go, right? And so they can bring light to places that I can't,
Right.
I
Yep.
myself. And so I think the best way, wherever we're working, whether you're in the hospital, the post office, the police department, you can really be a light and shine and be a witness to people just by how you conduct yourself. Because I believe that people gravitated towards Jesus because he was different. He
Yeah.
was different from the Pharisees. He was different from the religious leaders, right? It was different from the church folks, right? And because he cared for people, he loved people that other people rejected. So maybe we can kind of uh, start to end our session together by how did you embrace those who maybe you would see as enemies or even criminals, right? Because you dealt with a
Hmm.
lot of difficult people, people from the streets who were on the streets, and they didn't have good motives. Their hearts were in the wrong place. They wanted to hurt people. They wanted to hurt themselves. They wanted to hurt you. How did love? What did love look like? How did you love people that didn't love you? What as a believer, how did love captivate you, and how did you show that?
On so many different ways. I remember um, we go on the scene of an assault, and there was a guy, regular guy, always in and out of trouble, can't stand cops for anything, and he was cut. He was sliced from here to here,
Mm,
and he was just bleeding, and he wouldn't let us help him.
mm,
And I'm like saying to myself and to him, I told him, I said, listen, you don't have to like me. I said, but I am not going to let you die,
mm,
you know. And so I just, and it was funny because he stopped fighting with me at that point, like, yeah, he can't stand cops and this and that. He doesn't want to have nothing to do with me, so on, all that macho stuff that we see on a
right.
regular basis. But I was able to, get a towel and put it on his stab wound, and until the ambulance got there and so on. I just never looked at it as me against him or me
Mhm,
against her. I was just one doing my job, you
mm,
know. And when I say job, we had Lowe's Moore was teaching us about some things, and he was like, we have our job and then we have our job,
mhm.
and I was blessed to have that in one.
Yeah, yeah,
This is what I was put here for, and
right,
it ended up being my job.
right. Yeah,
But my,
yeah.
so I it was, I know a lot of people may not understand what that means, but so I was blessed with that. So, I didn't take certain things personal, like if something happened with somebody, or whether they assaulted me or so on, and I've always just wanted to try to help them, whether it was somebody who was injured or shot, or whether it was a family member of somebody who got injured or shot. And unfortunately, a lot of people in that situation are people who have negative interactions with the police, and I
Mm-hmm.
get that. And but I'm still here to help.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop doing because that person may not want it, and I can't change people's minds based on whatever they believe, but
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm still going to be the person I am. And
Mm.
I can't let that affect what I'm gonna do. I just can't give up. I don't believe in that. I'm just not gonna say, oh, screw it. They don't want us here. So I'm gonna get in the police car. I'm gonna go park behind the building, and they don't want us here. Then let everything happen and happen, and you just can't be that way. You just, like I told you before, you can't let anybody take you outside of who you are. And it's very easy um, for that to happen. But and I'm sure everybody has their moments. I'm sure I've had my moments sometimes, but majority of the time I just wasn't going to let anybody um dictate to me how I was going to be. I was just going to, and people understand, they'll come for me for advice. I said, just continue being you.
Yes.
I was
That's
like,
good.
if this is who you are, just continue being you. You didn't get promoted, so what? Were you doing what you were doing just to get promoted, or was that you?
Yeah.
If you were doing what you were doing just to get promoted, maybe that's why you didn't get promoted.
Mm.
you know
Yeah.
you can't come with false intentions.
Right, right. Those motives, right.
That's like, here you are, you meet a girl, you're saying all these nice things just for the kiss or for something else, but
Right.
you really don't mean any of it.
Mm.
The whole concept, to me, that's what it goes. What are your intentions? Is
Mm.
this really you or not? Like, I have my toy drive every year that I do to give the toys to cancer patients at Maria Freire Hospital, and I get a lot of help. A lot of people are like, "Oh, this is awesome what you do." I can't do it without the help of everybody else. So
Yes.
yeah, I happen to be the person putting it together, but what I'm doing is I'm inspiring people to do what they most likely want to do anyway. So
Yes. And
they
I'm glad
they
that you brought
help.
that. I'll put that in the link. I'll put that link or that information.
Yeah,
If
thank you. I
anybody
appreciate
wants to
it.
contribute to that, it's a great effort. So yeah, thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, and you know what? It's just a small thing that means so much to
Mm.
these kids. I lived in the hospital with my son when he was battling cancer. There's so many different organizations that do things for people, and everybody's got to do their part. Like,
Yes.
if everybody does their part, this world will be just such a better place.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, everybody, got all these different left and right politicians, politic people, and this and that. They're all complaining about this and that. What are you doing? What are
Right.
you doing?
Yeah.
We can't expect politicians to fix this. Look at
Mm.
the taxes can't even come close to the money we need to help everybody out that needs it. The
Mm.
kids that need computers and books and access to a better education and stuff like that. If it wasn't for people who take the time to raise money and do things like, something like what I'm doing on a small level, but there's so many non-for-profit organizations out there. A couple of people from my job, they have their own non-for-profits. One of them, Natasha, she has a non-for-profit, and helps out the kids in Haiti, where she's from. And then another friend of mine, Brent, he has his Brielle Foundation that he
Mhm.
and his daughter started, and they help out so many people. So, I'm just I continue to be inspired by the people that I surround myself with.
That's great.
And if that's anything that we could tell people or tell these young people, is surround yourself with like-minded, positive people. Get rid
Yes.
of those negative people in your life.
Yes.
Okay. All they're going to do is bring you down. Life is hard enough, but to have negative people in it, Get them out. Get rid of those negative people.
Wow, that's powerful. Powerful. Man, so much that you shared. And just Vinny is Vinny, and the Vinny, the officer, and the Vinny that's the Uber driver now. At times, you're the same, and it's just great to realize that uh, if you have the character of Christ, right, and just be, that genuine person that loves people, and just does what they're called to do. Um, whether you retire or not, whether you change careers or not, you're going to carry your character everywhere you go. And you're going to influence people everywhere you go. And so you may have found a good career, a place where you find your passions and your calling right there. But even after that, you're going to have to transition somewhere else, or you're always going to interact with people. And so just continue to be that person that loves people, accepts people for who they are. Do your best, do things in excellence at the best level as you can. And I'm just thinking about how much respect you get, Vinny, from even now, from police officers and just your fellow colleagues. And they love you, they respect you. And even if you're not there and you have retired, you still, you really
Yeah.
are a blessing, um, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's I believe that you left the department better than how you came in.
I'd like to think so. I really do. I really do, because the people that work for me, they let me know.
Mm,
They let me know what I meant to them. And they miss me. I keep in touch. I'm still working in order to do things to better the police department. I'm currently on the mayor's police reform commission
mm,
to assist, and because like I told them at our first meeting, I have a unique perspective on it. There is a need for some police reform, but
yeah,
I can also offer non-law enforcement, a very fair and impartial view on
mhm,
policing.
right,
Um, because a lot of people just come with this preconception that every police department is the same. It's not. Mount Vernon has issues, but there are issues that we can overcome if we do it together.
definitely.
Community as well, community
Mhm.
involvement as well. And we need to change the mindset with some people. Some people have
Yes.
a negative mindset, um, and we need to work on that, and we need our leadership to be on the same page.
Awesome, awesome. Well, as we wrap up, I believe one of the things that you have really shared, just from all that you have shared, you shared so many great things, is that just leaving wherever you work better than how you came in. And whether it's 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people, or one person, you're going to influence somebody. You're going to influence your workplace, and do it by influencing for the better
Yeah.
than for the worse. And so always see wherever you work as a calling. See it that God has placed you there, even if it's for a season. Do your best, show Christ, be the light, and I believe that God will bless you. And so, thank you
Thank you.
again, my brother Vinny, and
Thank you. It's my
for
pleasure.
sharing your heart and your experience. I believe that all of us are better because we listened to you, and we were able to learn so much of things that we wish we knew, and now
Thank
we
you.
now we know. So that we can definitely
Thank you.
be better in our careers. So we will be honored if you don't mind just praying out. Just pray for us if you don't mind, and
Absolutely.
out.
Lord, I want thank you. Thank you for Pastor Bejoy. Thank you for everybody on this call. Thank you for all that you do with me, for me. I ask you if you protect everybody listening, everybody who can hear my voice. Touch them, Lord. Touch them with the positive and the love that you have touched me with. Have them share it with other people, Lord, and let them live, let you live with inside of them. And I thank you. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you for everybody for joining us tonight, and we hope to see you next Thursday. God bless. Thank you, Vinny. Take
Thank
care.
you. Thank you. Good night.